Hi everybody, today we're going to do a Photoshop project where we're going to take a picture of a car, something like this, and we're going to make it look like it's moving. We're going to blur its background and we're going to spin its wheels and make a still photo look like it's moving. Alright, this lesson is found in our server under Digital Photo Lessons, under Car in Motion, and you will see the directions here, as well as a few photos that I found. Now when you go to look for photos, find a picture of a car that's outside. Don't pick one that's in a showroom or with other parked cars. You want it to look fairly, open on the road. Now, I chose this one because this was my first car and kind of fell in love with it, but I found that it wasn't the best example. But let's take a car. So when you find a picture, drag it into Photoshop. I've already got one loaded, so let's get started. First thing we've got to do is we got to get the marching ants around the car. We have to select the car. So on the toolbar, we're going to come right over here to the quick selection tool, and I think the best results will be found if you go to select and mask. And what this does is allow you to see the car in different modes. And I'm going to cancel this for a second because it looks like it's picking up where I left off. I'm going to try to just start over. Okay, so select and mask, and then go to your view. I like the onion skin. I think it gives, a nice way to see it. Okay, this is the select and mask tool. You just kind of sweep over the car. If you pick up something that you don't want, just use the option key. And I'm keeping that circle inside the car. I don't really want to get too far out of the lines. There's a little bit down here. If you need to make this circle bigger or smaller, right next to the letter P on the keyboard are your bracket keys, and you can take and make those smaller. Don't worry too much about the shadows under the car. I spent some time trying to dink around and fix it, and I found that it didn't really matter that much in the end, so I wouldn't worry about it. Now, what I like about this is you can take a look at different views. So let's see it on a red overlay. Looks pretty good, but I've got a little spot here, so hold your option key to make that plus go to a minus, and you can take something out if you feel like you need to add it back in. Like I'm going to add this part back in, just let go of the option. I'm going to hold option on this part. So my lines, they're okay, but I think there's something else I can do. And okay, I got this little line right over here. It's tricky, and this is going to be a trickier cutout than some of the other ones that we've done. All right. Oh, and I got to get my headline. It's not perfect, but let's see what else we can do with it. I'm going to go back onto layers so I can see it, and I'm going to go over here and use this tool. So we've been using quick selection, but this is called refine edge. And what this will do is kind of like smooth out the rough edges. Now, if you look over on the right, you'll see this edge detection, and it might be closed, but if you open it, you'll see a radius slider. As you drag that radius slider, it's going to pick up little bits along the edges, and all I want you to do is kind of drag it. Don't take it too far, but drag it until everything kind of looks smoother on the edges. And again, like if you feel like you still need to pick up some parts, you can still come back in and mess with it, or hold option to take something out. In the end, some of this isn't going to be noticed too much. I'm not sure what that is. Let me take it out. Okay. All right. When you feel like it's pretty good, come on over here to the right side again and look for output settings. Now, you might have a lot of stuff open, like all of this stuff. I'm going to just close global refinements. I'm going down to output settings, and I want it outputted to a new layer. Okay? And then say, okay. So what it'll do is it'll take you back into Photoshop. I want to see my layers, so I've got to make sure I have those out. Now you've got two copies. You've got the background, and you've got the cutout. So as you kind of close that, like you wink these little eyes, and it'll show you. So now we want to be on the background layer, and I need to unlock it. So I'm just going to unlock that, and I'm going to put a filter on it. So at the very top, you'll see filter, blur. So we're going to come down here, and we're going to look for motion blur. Filter, blur, motion blur. And when you get in here, Make sure preview's on so you can see it. When you drag that slider, whoa, it's really going fast now. You know, you can decide how much crazy blur do you want on this thing. Is this a NASCAR? Or I'm going to pull it back a little bit, make it a little, maybe a little more realistic, but you can decide how much blur you want. And you just say, okay, good. Now, we're going to put a blur on the wheel. For that, you've got to be on the background copy. So you've got to be on this layer. And this is where it gets a little tricky. On your toolbar, you're going to see the rectangle marquee tool. So if you hold your mouse on it, you'll see the elliptical marquee. This is where we need to go, the circle. So we need to somehow select this wheel. Now this takes a little practice, and what I found is if I start on the upper left corner and I just kind of pull. Now here's the thing, I am not letting go of my mouse. I'm still holding on to it. Now if I hold down my space bar, I can move this thing wherever I want to, as long as I don't let go. As soon as I let go of the mouse, that's where it is. If you mess up, Command D like dog will deselect. You can get rid of that. So I'm going to try that again. I'm going to come out a little wider. I'm going to pull it. Now, if I hold Option or if I hold Shift when I'm doing this, it makes it a perfectly round circle. But I found that tires are not perfectly round, so I'm not going to try to do that. Just by pulling my mouse up and down and using my space bar, I'm going to hold my space bar and just kind of get it around. I really just want it around the hubcap as much as I can. All right, so there it is. It's as good as it's going to get. I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, and this time I'm going to put a radial blur. And when you click on that, you'll see your option for spin. So I want a spin. Here's the problem. We can't really see what this is going to do until we say OK. So I'm going to say OK and see if that's too much. That looks like kind of a lot. So if you feel like that's too much blur, just hit Command Z, undo it, and go back again. Filter, Blur, Radial Blur, and maybe you decide you want to pull that back a notch. Okay. Yeah, that looks a little better. Now, Command D, like dog, will deselect that, and we got to do it again on the back side. So again, with that elliptical marquee tool, just kind of drag it out. Now here's the trick. When you've already got a filter loaded, if I went up here to Filter, Radial Blur, it's going to put the same setting that I just used. Now, if something went wrong and you didn't want this exact setting, then you could just go back down to Filter, Blur, Radial Blur, and do it again. And it will load to the last thing you just had anyway. But this is kind of a shortcut. So I'm just going to click on it, and it puts that on there. Command D, like dog, deselects, and there you go. We got a car in motion. So let's take a look from the beginning to the end. It's as simple as that. All right. Here's what we need to do. Go to File, Save As. Make sure you're seeing down here in the left column the CL Mac for our server. If you don't see things, if it's really small like this little button right here widens the view. So you can go here, Topeka High, Journalism, and then go find your folder and save things. And hey, if that was fun and you still have some time, do another one. Good luck today.